So let's talk 3 ways to learn a language. So when we're looking at how to learn a language on the thirsty side here, and we're looking at all of these resources that we can use, like sorting through the clutter is all out there, right? And also an analysis of time and money, because let's face it, you know, when we have the money to pay for things like tutoring and classes and things like that, sometimes it can move us forward a little faster. And then when we are using free resources like conversation partners and worksheets and workbooks and things that some of us are really productive with, others may take much longer to do and just not be as motivated, might not be as much fun to do. And so we have to look at all those factors. But specifically for free resources and how to choose those and how to understand, like, where should we use free resources and where should we use paid resources, that's what we're going to look at today. And I have compiled a list of free resources for you guys on the website, on my website, on the blog post here. So in the description there's a link to the blog post, and that does have free resources for you guys. Those are ready to go. And in this video, we're going to look at how to find free resources. So we're going to go above and beyond what is mentioned there. So for free resources, and first we need to consider what language you're learning and what level you are in that language, and also where you are in the world. So with our languages, if you're learning a language that is pretty widely spoken, like Spanish or English or French, Chinese even, those languages are pretty easy to find resources for the most part. There's a lot out there. Now if you're learning a language like Thai or Swahili, I think actually I did see Swahili on Duolingo. Some of the other languages though that are Lithuanian, maybe? So I don't know why that's coming in, but that's coming in right now. And something like that, I haven't seen resources for that. I was looking at Thai for a little bit. I was researching it and didn't find much of anything for Thai. So for languages like that, those are going to be really, really challenging for you to find your resources unless you live in that country or you just have some kind of access to that. And so those you have an added challenge. So that is a thing to consider there, is your language widely spoken? And for most of us, we're going to have so many resources that the issue is sorting through all those resources and finding the ones we actually want to use, and so that we're using our time wisely. And then for conversation partners as well, if we're going the free route and we want to practice speaking, then finding those as well. There's a website specifically for that as well on that blog post. And so for the conversation partners, with the widely spoken languages, of course, there's just more of them, and you can find those. And then for the other languages, more tricky. And that's actually an area where we can look at compare time and money, because your time is also money. So when we are looking for free resources, we want to be aware of, okay, I'm going to use this free resource, but maybe it's going to take me 2 or 3 times as long as if I use this paid resource. And depending on your situation and your scenario with that, you may want the free resource because you like the resource, you want to do it that way, or because you have the time, or the time might be more important to you and it might be worth spending, I don't know, $20 to say that, to save a couple hours. So that's something to consider there. Or maybe it's a topic that you struggle in and you're like, I just would rather get this done and get through it and have that. So for me, with the conversation aspect, I prefer to use a tutor to practice speaking, and that is because I find that my time is more efficient that way, and I meet with someone who's really highly skilled. They move me through. It's focused. It's only dedicated to me. I'm not expected it's not an exchange. When you do a conversation exchange with someone, the expectation is usually that they help you and you help them, which is great, especially if you're looking to save some money and that's the priority. By all means, go for it. I've done that route too, and that's how I have the experience on both sides. But right now, at this moment in my life, what's important to me is maximizing my time. So I'd rather spend, like that $20 again for an hour of like a conversation and have that be as efficient, as effective as, say, spending 3 hours with or 4 hours even sometimes with a conversation partner, or even like maybe I would say that's probably the equivalent of like, well, time talking 2 hours, right? An hour and an hour, so you get an hour, they get an hour. That's 2 hours already. And then also the person you're talking to, they likely are not a teacher, so it's likely just like a casual conversation, which can be very valuable, but it's a casual conversation. And so then you also have to do the practice and like the improvement on your end, kind of on your own, that extra practice. So that adds on maybe extra hours, like 3 hours really. And I would rather condense that into 1 hour, pay a little bit, and have that be more efficient. But again, that is what you need to align with your priorities and the time that you have and the financial resources that you have. And neither one is right or wrong. You just need to decide what's right for you. And so with the conversation partner, those are pretty much the two options, aside from practicing, going to the country and practicing, of course. If you live there, you study abroad, or if you are just living in that country and learning the language. And that, of course, is the most immersive environment, and then you get all of that practice and then your own studying as well. So let's talk about your own studying and resources, where we can find free resources and when to use those and when to use paid resources. So for resources, so I use Duolingo. I guess you can talk about Duolingo a lot. I really, I'd like to work with Duolingo one of these days when they find me. I'd like to partner with Duolingo. I'm not sponsored by them yet, but I would like to partner with them. So I use Duolingo, and so Duolingo is awesome because they are a free resource and they're just amazing. I love them, and I've used them for Spanish and French, and now I'm using them for Mandarin, and this is a free resource that I use, and because I find it really effective, and so I use it. And I use that, and then I have different workbooks that I use as well, especially I have one for Mandarin and I have one for French too, the workbooks that I use. And those are like, they're paid, you have to buy the book, right? But it's cheap. You buy a book, it's not like having to go to tutoring every week and you pretty much pay like, what you pay for a book for like less than a tutoring session, right? And so I get the books, I work through those. We'll call those like on the free-ish side because they're so cheap. And then I have my classes that I take, which are at the community college level. I take those too, and those are paid, although since community college, they're pretty cheap. And then if I take classes like my Spanish classes through university, those cost, right? And but the benefit that I get from doing that, and that I will still likely do with my French and my Mandarin with the university classes, and the benefit with that is that I am in a more rigorous environment, and I have feedback on my writing and my production, and really structure to move me forward further than I would be able to move myself, because I don't know what I don't know. I can't correct myself. To some extent I can, like a little bit, but not the way a teacher can of that language. And so that would be like a paid resource, paid program, or of course something like Study Abroad. Those are also extremely efficient and can cost a little bit, but not always more than like university classes. At least the programs I did, they cost pretty much the same as like classes here, but you do incur a bunch of extra expenses for living abroad, and you're living somewhere else, maybe you still have to pay for the place you live in your home country, and you have to pay for another place, and then you have to all the other incidentals. So yeah, it does add up actually. But so those are those two options, right? And with the resources, so let's talk books and worksheets and things like that, and apps. With apps, as I mentioned, Duolingo, and I like that one. There's a ton though. There's so many. I've tried some different ones, but I just didn't like them so much. They're good. A lot of people like a lot of these other apps. There's like Hello Talk. I tried Skritter for Mandarin. I tried I was looking to Thai, like I mentioned at some point. I tried some Thai app, but then I decided not to learn Thai. And I've tried different things, and they're just not for me. But try different apps. And then also, so here's what we need to consider too, is your language widely spoken, because for languages like Thai, for example, I had a really difficult finding any kind of resource. And like Duolingo, they didn't have it. They have like invented languages. They have like Klingon, and they have something else. They have like all kinds of crazy languages, but it's difficult sometimes to find resources for your language. So for that, you have to really get creative. And then the challenge there becomes when you're studying a less widely spoken language. The challenge there becomes then just finding the resources, and you pretty much just take whatever you can get, like whatever it costs, like you just take that resource. But for languages like Spanish and French and like Arabic, like Russian, anything that's really widely spoken, you can be a little more choosy with your resources and find things that really fit well for you. And for so for those resources, like for a textbook, you know, you can look at different books and find one that you like. And for different classes and programs, it's really up to you to choose. For apps as well. So I would recommend find like a go-to app for your languages if you're learning multiple languages that you like, or also look into your language specific apps and programs, because languages like Chinese, for example, there's so many programs dedicated just to Chinese because it is so different from like the Romance languages, for example. And so some of them, sometimes there's specialized programs for that language. So I would spend a little bit of time, you know, spend a couple hours just exploring programs and resources. Write them down, make lists of the ones that you like, and then allow yourself some more time to go through and try some of those different programs. And, you know, find ones that you like, and then start with those. And then if there's some that you're like, hey, maybe I like these, but I like these better, start with the ones you really like. Use them. If you find that they're working well for you, keep using them. If you find that you need something more, maybe add one of those other ones in, or maybe change one. But do try to find something that you like and kind of just stick with it and finish it. I really recommend avoiding jumping around. So if you find something that you like, I would just stick with it and do it and complete it, and then try something else. Resist that urge to just program jump or like app jump, because you maybe get to a point where it's difficult. Okay, there is the difference. We do need to be able to define that difference between when is it something that's not working for me and when is it something that is just a little difficult that I need to push past. So make sure you're aware of that for yourself. And if you're not sure, then probably just push past it. Or maybe that might be the time to work with a tutor as well. So really using a combination of all these different resources. And when you're looking at free and paid resources, what you are doing is finding the resources that you like, figuring out when it is optimal to use free resources, when it is more optimal to use paid resources, and ultimately finding a blend of the two. And of course, you know, some people might have more free resources, some people might have more paid resources, and it's not necessarily going to stay the same the entire time you study your language. It's going to fluctuate like everything else in language learning and life. Alright, I will see you guys back here next Tuesday with another video. Once again, make sure to check out that blog post because I did link those free resources for you. And that's it. I'll see you guys back here next time. Bye guys!